time for, I'll get this right now, Tuesday's political panel. We welcome, I can't wait for this, Mike Buckley, journalist and campaigner, and Albie Amankona, political commentator and founder of Conservatives Against Racism. Good afternoon, my favourite A-team. How are we?
Very well, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right. Go on then, AB. Let me check, MB. I'm going to just say this. I know what you're going to say in return. I actually have a degree of sympathy with everybody during this cost of living. But when a self-styled Marxist stands up and says, I'm going to bring down these Tory butchers, whether you and your friends on the left think this is outrageous, it doesn't read the room, Mike. It doesn't go down well with people, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I love him.
Can I just say you're the most honest socialist I ever have on this show? Brilliant.
Yeah, you're too kind, thank you. No, it doesn't go down well. Of course it doesn't. And that isn't what it's about. I mean, you know me well enough to know that I wouldn't use language like that because about anybody, because I don't think it's appropriate. And there is an argument to be had over people deserve to be paid well. There's an argument to be had about the fact that inflation's running at 9%, so anything less than a 9% pay rise, which isn't what they're asking for, is a pay cut. So these people are already facing the same price, cost of living prices that so many people are facing, and that should be recognised by the government, and that should be recognised by the rail companies as well. But nonetheless, there are two sides to this, of course. Everybody else has got to get to work, they've got to get to school, they've got to get to university, they've got to get to the doctors, they've got to get to the, go to the hospital. So nobody's winning out of this.
No.
At root, whose fault is it? It isn't the rail workers' fault. They're just going to work and they're watching the economy collapse around their ears. It's the government's fault for allowing the economy to collapse.
Albie, what are your thoughts on the strikes?
Well, I think it's understandable and predictable that workers would ask for higher wages during a period of higher inflation.
Yeah.
But the fundamental point is anyone with a basic understanding of economics knows that inflation-busting wage rises, let's say 9% or above, will just bake inflation into the economy. And history has shown us that once inflation is baked into the economy at more than 5%, recession is one of the only ways that it can be brought back down. So rather than giving people more money through giving them bigger paychecks, which is an easy solution, we need to contain the inflationary pressures rather than increasing wages. And that is primarily the job of the Bank of England by increasing interest rates. And they actually did that, I think it was last week.
I think we all agree that it is really hard for a lot of people. I keep talking about tonally. And Mike makes the point, which is why he is my favourite socialist, because he's saying, look, I understand their concerns, everybody's concerns, but that's I have no sympathy with Mick Lynch, and so my view of it is different because of the rhetoric that he used, if I'm completely honest. And whether they're private companies or it's the government, I will say this to you, Mike, I believe that these strikes will play, which won't go down well, but I think this plays completely into Boris's hands again. Because I think a lot of people who maybe wanted to hear what the Labour Party would do genuinely, we haven't heard from Starmer. We're back there again. Don't say anything but support it privately. Some of his MPs have joined the picket lines today. That's their right, going against what he said. That message to the British people is, hold on a second, we're back at another situation where Starmer won't come out and say, because of course Unite gave him, what, 2.8 million quid? Since April 2020. That's fine. The Tory party has donors as well. I accept all of that. But the truth is, a lot of people, as you said, whose lives are impacted today, will say that's what life would be like under a Labour Party. Do you understand that?
Yeah, no, I do. And I do think that Labour's position could and should have been clearer on this. And, I mean, it's a golden rule of politics, isn't it? Pick a side and justify why you've picked that side.
Absolutely.
And in this situation, Labour needs to be clear. Do you support the strikes or do you not support the strikes? Either way, pick a side and make your position clear. And with the best will in the world, I don't think that's been done, and it needs to be done. It needs to be done, not just for these strikes. These aren't the only strikes we're going to see. We're probably going to see the teachers out on strike, maybe the nurses and the midwives and the doctors out on strike. Who knows who else out on strike?
And do you know why you're right about Starmer? This is where I think, I said to somebody in the Labour Party the other day, I want to hear from the Labour Party why I should vote for them. Genuinely, I've said that to you many times, Mike. I know we've had months and months of Partygate and slaggings and all that. I want to know. So, because I think the paralysis that surrounds Keir Starmer, caused by what Corbyn did to the Labour Party, and his total fear, in my mind, that he will be judged if he supports the strikes like Corbyn, he says nothing. But that paralysis leaves him, Albie, in a position where people go, and this man wants to be the Prime Minister. How, as Mike said, pick a side, man, and make your point, right?
I think it leaves him in a position of attack, especially if we see, Labour MPs and even sort of PPSs said Labour members of the shadow cabinet going out on picket lines and actually joining the strikers who were causing so much misery on the country. Look, I completely understand why workers are going on strike and asking for higher wages, but it is important that a government in waiting would take a strong position on this. And I think they really should have come out quite strongly either for the strikes, which I think would have been a bad idea politically, or against them, which obviously is the right choice in my opinion.
Rolls-Royce, just to throw this in, guys, hands workers £2,000 one-off payment to ease the cost of living squeeze. What did you make of that, Mike?
Well, they didn't only do that, they've also given them a 4% pay rise, which they've backdated. I didn't see how long they've backdated it for, but it's just an example, isn't it? In the private sector, wages are going up to compensate for the fact that the economy is collapsing around our hips. In the public sector, they're not. We're always living in a two-tier society. This is now a new way that we're living in a two-tier society.
What do you say to people who say, maybe post-pandemic, certainly post-furlough, there seems to be a feeling in this country, which is really weird to say this about a Tory government, that the government have got to bail us out. You know, I jokingly told you that email the other day. The guy said it's raining in Wolverhampton. Could I just phone up Boris for some umbrellas? Do we not get to the point where if we give every single public sector worker, and I'm being straight here, what they demand at that time, we're going to be skint, aren't we, Mike? There has to be a line, doesn't there?
Well, we're looking at fuel bills of about £3,000, I think, by the autumn into next year. And I was reading something else today saying that food prices, it didn't say for how many people in the households, maybe it's a standard 2.5-person household, it's going to go up by 380 quid in a year. People are just not going to be able to afford to pay. There are already millions of people, going to, I think it's 2.9 million people now in the UK go to food banks. And when the Tories came in 12 years ago, pretty much nobody went to food bank. Now you expect a food bank in impunity, just like you expect a bank.
But by going on strike, Mick Lynch is basically going to. Yeah, I agree. But by going on strike, Mick Lynch is going to make going on a train more expensive, which is not going to help people's lives, is it?
Well, what other choice has he got though? He's tried to negotiate with the government. The government even sit at the same table with him. So what's he going to do? He is. I mean, I agree. I don't agree with his language, but I just think, what other recourse does this person have? Not only to get better paying conditions or indeed the same paying conditions or marginally less bad paying conditions.
So you understand what he's doing, you just don't like the way he's doing it. Albie, what do you make of what Mike just said? Do you understand what Mick Lynch is doing as a person? Because to me it seems political.
Look, it's Mick Lynch's job to represent the interests of the union members, and that's exactly what he's doing, and he's doing it very effectively. But just to come back to something which Mike said a little bit earlier about Rolls-Royce and the benefits that they're giving to employees, you of course missed out that actually Network Rail offered a 3% pay rise to the RMT workers, and the government is of course introducing hundreds of pounds into the pockets of everyone in this country to help with the cost of living crisis. So that's not that different to actually what Rolls-Royce is offering their employees, but it's not good enough for Mick Lynch and the RMT.
Maybe MPs should take a pay cut, somebody said, and join the working man, which is an interesting one. It's a shortened version today, my friends, but you are the A-team, never forget that. Always delighted to have you on. Mike Buckley, Albie Amankona, thank you very much indeed. 19 minutes to 6.